It was only a matter of time. A class action lawsuit has been filed as a result of the Marshall fire. The lawsuit claims Excel's equipment contributed to the most expensive fire in Colorado history. The lawsuit today comes from an unnamed couple and the owner of the El Dorado Market, right near where the Marshall fire started. Separate from that lawsuit, our Marshall Zellinger just got some new video from that day that does show power lines doing something unusual.
Oh no.
This is what Edward Harrell saw at 12:05 p.m. on December 30th, the day of the Marshall fire.
Oh.
He's heading north on Highway 93 toward Boulder, approaching the intersection at Highway 170,
Oh wow.
Marshall Road. That smoke is heading toward Superior, coming from near the 12 Tribes property, one of the areas where investigators have searched for the fire's origin. He turns around at the intersection at 12:07 p.m., about to head back the same way he came when he saw this.
Oh! Okay, I am out.
A class action lawsuit filed today blames Xcel Energy, saying the energy company's utility equipment were a substantial factor in the cause and origin of the Marshall fire. Edward Harrell, who shot this video, is not part of that lawsuit. Listen to the wind and watch the power lines again.
Oh!
I came back the exact way I came in, and that's when I saw the power line arc at the intersection of 93 and Marshall Road. And then the winds were just like nothing I've ever seen in my life.
Last month, when 9 Wants to Know investigator Kevin Vaughn reported the possibility of multiple ignition points, he reached out to Xcel to ask about arcing power lines. An Xcel spokeswoman wrote in an email then, "Our equipment held up well in unprecedented 110-mile-per-hour wind gusts on the day of the fire, but it is possible that some lines may have touched during the storm. Nevertheless, nothing we have seen to this point in the investigation leads us to believe that arcing or any other aspect of our equipment's operation ignited the fire." In response to today's lawsuit, Xcel told us, "We have not seen evidence that our equipment ignited the fire." Harrell told me that a private investigator contacted him about his video, but that he's not spoken directly to the Boulder County Sheriff's Office. We're going to make sure they connect with that video. I've also spoken multiple times, Kyle, with a woman who tells me she called 911 at 10:29 a.m., the morning of the Marshall fire, to report arcing power lines at that same intersection. Our requests to get access to the 911 calls so far have been denied.
We talk about why the Boulder County Sheriff's Office has been so quiet about the investigation. It's clear from the idea of, these power lines to somebody doing something stupid with a burn, to the idea of the underground coal seam. There are a lot of things seen in that general vicinity on that windy day when the fire started. And what's interesting, if you see where the arcing power line appears to happen as he drives south on Highway 93, if you look to the left where that smoke is coming from, that trailhead area is not burning yet, and we know that caught fire at some time, also going to Kevin's reporting of multiple origin points. All right, Marshall, thank you.
Today's next question comes to us from Margot, curious where the debris from the Marshall fire cleanup is going.
That is a very good question, Margot. What's happening now is that private contractors are doing cleanup for the property owners who opted out of the organized county-run cleanup. And those private companies have their own private dumping agreements with various landfills. For the county-run cleanup, the larger effort, the ash, soil, and debris will be sorted out and taken to Foothills Landfill and Front Range Landfill. Any concrete that doesn't contain asbestos will be taken to Colorado Aggregate to be recycled, and metals, scrap vehicles, and such will be taken to Rocky Mountain Recyclers. Margot was not the only one of you to ask that question after you saw the cleanup begin this week, so it goes to show what we always say. If you're wondering, somebody else is too, so don't be shy. Record a video or audio version of your question if possible and email it to next@9news.com, and we'll try to find an answer for everybody. The man accused of shooting 2 protesters in the streets following the death of Elijah McClain has been found guilty on all 7 counts. The jury just convicted Samuel Young late this afternoon of assault, attempted manslaughter, and a weapons charge. Young was a protester that day as well, back in July of 2020. Protesters scattered where they were marching on I-225 when a Jeep sped through the crowd. Young had a gun and started firing. 2 people were hit. One guy in the leg, another was grazed in the head. Young's defense team argued that he fired trying to protect protesters from the driver and the Jeep. Prosecutors said his actions were not justified, and the jury just sided with prosecutors. The chief prosecutor at the time of the incident, Republican DA George Brockler, decided not to press charges against the Jeep driver who drove through the crowd. Sentencing for Young is scheduled for May. A judge has now blocked a request for an outside audit of Colorado's elections. Now, we have the standard risk-limiting audits that are done each time, but groups claiming election fraud without evidence have asked for outside audits, like the Cyber Ninja audit that failed to find fraud down in Arizona. A judge did not choose to block portions of a lawsuit brought by 2 Republican county clerks that's seeking a change to some election rules. That part of the case proceeds. They want the judge to throw out rules that bar county clerks from bringing in outside consultants to access voting equipment, and a rule that a ballot must be sent to every voter listed in the state's WebScore voter database. It has been a decades-long road to universal preschool in Colorado. Democratic Governor Jared Polis campaigned on it. Voters approved funding for it. And now, state legislators are finalizing the plan for it to begin in 2023. Here's Anusha Roy.
Our caregivers in early childhood are among the least paid.
Melissa Maris was tapped a couple of years ago to help craft this policy.
If it weren't for those families and their courage and their willingness to say, like, no, childcare costs more than my mortgage.
And is excited to see a bill focused on universal pre-K reach the Senate Education Committee this afternoon.
It'll just change the trajectory for thousands of 4-year-olds.
It's not a done deal yet, and 1 years in the making.
Well over a decade's worth of legislative momentum.
Back in 1988, Colorado set up a preschool program for at-risk kids. In 2013, the state established the Office of Early Childhood, with several bills passed along the way. But the concrete turning point, according to Maris and the bill sponsor, came in 2019.
Colorado passed full-day kindergarten.
The following year, voters said yes to Prop EE to help fund universal pre-K. Ever since, the state has been collecting millions of dollars, and by next year should have $167.7 million for universal pre-K. But the program isn't up and running yet. So what's been happening since 2020?
We engaged well over 1,000 Coloradans.
Felt it would be best if we created this new Department of Early Childhood.
It's an incredibly large piece of legislation. It's almost 500 pages.
That's being discussed now, with the goal to stand up universal pre-K by fall of 2023.
It can just be so frustrating to wait for change.
The bill sponsor, Democratic Representative Emily Sirota, said they know they are trying to expand programs in an area plagued by staffing shortages and pay issues.
We do have plans in place to try to better address how we pay for these services, pay for this profession.
Could they be making more than they would now?
That's the goal.
Yeah, but the big question, by how much? Well, that hasn't been decided yet. It is one of the many things yet to be figured out if this bill moves forward. If it does pass, it would provide preschool for 10 hours a week, possibly more for at-risk kids. And, you know, the obvious question here is, you know, there's going to be families who need more than 10 hours of care a week. And so the idea is through this new department, they would streamline all the services basically under one house. So then they could connect other families to other resources to helpfully make more care more affordable for them.
And obviously, this is all getting started at a time when different communities have different resources available to them. Everybody's not at the same starting point.
Yeah, if you just look around the state, there's parts of rural Colorado that already have programs like this up and running. Same goes for Denver. There is similar infrastructure in Summit County, but then there's also parts of Colorado that don't have the teachers. Some of them don't even have the buildings for these kids. And so the state said they're trying to basically bring everything together and be a stopgap for those areas as well, and then help other parts of Colorado expand.
Makes sense. Thank you, Anusha. Douglas County Schools' new superintendent said today, on her first day, that her first priority is bridging the obvious divide in that community. Erin Kane succeeds former Superintendent Corey Wise, who was fired without cause under his contract by the conservative school board majority. The board president had actually reached out to Kane about taking the job before they fired the last guy. The judge ordered the school board majority to stop their secret dealings and comply with the law. Superintendent Kane put out a list of priorities for her first 100 days, including more competitive pay for teachers, building a positive culture and stability, but first and foremost, she said, bridging the divide in our community. Colorado's last large-scale community vaccination sites are closing today. COVID vaccine will still be widely available in the places where you would go to get a flu shot. We have long lists of those spots in this article on 9news.com. Quick look at our state's positivity rate. It's back under 3% again after a small rise in the back half of January, so good to see things leveling off. 2.9% of tests done in the state have come back positive over the last 7 days. That is a very stable, a very controllable situation from the perspective of public health leaders.
It's a mass transplant event of sorts. Thousands of people expected to come to a forest in Colorado this summer to hold a Burning Man of sorts in the woods. And it's another newcomer up there that has ranchers hoping to deliver an ass-kicking to wolves who go after livestock.
The hope is that the donkeys will work as a type of a guard animal to help mitigate some of the losses.
Guard burros on duty. Next.
The U.S. Forest Service is preparing for what essentially sounds like Woodstock in Colorado, but without the bands. Rumors have been swirling online that a rainbow gathering is potentially coming to Colorado. Rainbow gathering being that yearly temporary countercultural gathering in the woods of potentially tens of thousands of people at once. Picture like, earthy types playing music and dancing and whatnot. Last year's rainbow gathering was near Taos, New Mexico in Carson National Forest. The gathering would be happening sometime in the summertime, and there are groups online suggesting that it could be at Table Mountain in Golden or Strawberry Lake in the Granby area. Now, the risk of a ton of people living and doing all kinds of stuff in the woods all of a sudden poses an obvious obvious concern for fire danger, considering how dry the last 2 summers have been. The Forest Service says they're already preparing for the possibility of the event coming to Grand County. They said that they're working with partners to get ready for the possibility of a large, extended gathering on public lands. And they'll bring in a number of additional resources to help out if needed.
Sunshine and 60s today for the last day of March. And now tonight, like in beautiful Boulder, high and mid-level clouds are coming in. All part of a Friday storm. It's a fairly weak storm, but a few showers are certainly possible to end the week. 62 in Denver, 64 Lamar, and look at the temperatures for spring skiing. This system already bringing rain and snow across the Continental Divide and Western Slope. It'll bring an isolated shower to the Front Range tomorrow. Not a terribly significant storm, but the cloud cover will bring temperatures down a bit, and isolated showers are likely late in the day from Fort Morgan to Sterling. Around the area tomorrow, we'll go partly cloudy, 57. Again, a bit of wind out of the north, 10 to 20 miles per hour. And then watch this. Sunshine close to 70 Saturday. A few showers late Sunday and early Monday. Temperatures trending in the mid-50s and lower 60s through the extended period. And that includes the first part of next week.
You correctly corrected me last night. So you were talking about the cost of Colorado's carbon fund license plates, those custom plates. Drivers have to pay the cost of a 50% offset of their emissions to get the plate. We were laughing because one of you took a picture of one of them on a Hummer, and that's a pretty expensive plate. I mentioned electric vehicle tailpipe emissions, and several of you were like, what are you talking about? You're right. EVs don't produce emissions when they're running. The charge for the plates on an EV, and there is a charge in Colorado, comes because the state charges owners a smaller amount for the carbon fund plates on an EV for the emissions that come from the production of the electricity that they use. Hey, Denver street sweeping season begins tomorrow. Don't get surprised. Don't get a ticket. Surprised. Like we were when we found out what Denver was paying for its fancy Italian street sweepers and how that deal went down. Time to bring back our street sweeping season PSA.
Each spring, it begins. The dance of the DeLevos. Denver's shiny fleet of Italian-made street sweepers like little Lamborghinis that you can't drive but still cost you money. They are sleek, compact, nimble, precision machines cleaning our streets of dirt and your wallet of money should you forget to move your car in time. The ticket, $50. Each street sweeper costs $227,147. So it pays for itself in about 4,500 tickets. Denver and DeLevo, a love affair that included a vendor-paid trip to Italy for a city official, who then recommended that they add a DeLevo electric sweeper without getting other bids. There's no time for bids when love, like dust, is in the air as the DeLevos dance through Denver streets.
I've never lost this many animals in such a short period of time.
A rancher who's lost livestock to wolves has some new guards for the herd. They are complete jackasses, and that's the point. Next.
Wolves have been a concern for cattle ranchers in northern Colorado ever since the state voted to reintroduce wolves in 2020. Government's still working on a formal plan. Meanwhile, the wolves have just wandered down from Wyoming anyway. Photojournalist Mike Grady went up to Jackson County to see one rancher's effort to keep his cattle safe from continued wolf killings.
Life at 8,000 feet above sea level isn't easy for a cow.
They can have issues at higher elevations.
Don Gittleson knows that all too well.
I've had cattle, oh man, for 40 some years.
Thin air and cold weather aren't the only menaces at the Sherman Creek Ranch in northern Colorado.
Lately we've had another challenge, yes.
What's that?
So that would be the wolves.
Last year, gray wolves killed 3 of Don's herd in 1 month.
I've never lost this many animals in such a short period of time from any of the other predators.
Any threat to the 180 head of cattle is impactful.
Yeah, if it got bad enough, it'd be serious enough where I'd need to find something else to do.
Gray wolves are protected as an endangered species, but Don has tried everything at his disposal to protect these cows.
Most of the things that have been made by people, they only last for weeks, maybe a couple months. After that, the wolves get used to that.
Earlier in March, Don got reinforcements.
The donkeys. Good thing about these guys, too, is where they came from, it was a bit colder.
Colorado Parks and Wildlife helped Don get 6 donkeys from the Bureau of Land Management in Utah.
The hope is that the donkeys will work as a type of a, guard animal.
He plans to give them a good home.
We don't intend to have anything get injured by the wolves. I mean, that's not the intention, is to sacrifice the donkeys for the cows.
Guard burrows aren't a perfect plan.
Just not running from the wolves is a bit of a help.
But these brave brayers help make life at elevation a little more livable.
Donkeys and the cows, at least right now, they get along with each other and that, so we'll see how they work.
For Next, I'm Mike Grady.
Don will continue to work with CPW to determine just how effective the guard donkeys are. If they're successful, stands to reason we'd see more ranchers using them to safeguard their cattle from wolves. Speaking of the animal kingdom, it's a sign that the dogs are missing and a new cat could be to blame. It's some pretty morbid humor you sent us, plus your feedback next. It's a sign. It's a missing poster at the post office, actually. There's a bunch of those. This one's different. Mark spotted this bit of dark humor at the post office in Winter Park. Found kitten in Winter Park, it says. No collar or tags. Doesn't like cuddling much, but sure loves play stalking the kids. Kitty's got a big appetite and is easily agitated. And in a strange twist, the poster says, the family's small dogs have disappeared. Okay, that's kind of bent, but the bottom line is people in Winter Park at the post office find this is pretty funny because it stayed up. Email us the signs you see next at 9news.com. The feedback tonight from James on Marshall Zellinger's reporting about the lawsuit suggesting that Xcel Energy was somehow to blame for the Marshall fire. James says, funny, because they haven't released the cause of the fire yet. You were absolutely correct, James. This lawsuit might just be one more way to search for evidence, if you catch my drift. Miles writes, as climate change drives continuing erratic and intense weather, it's time to get power lines underground. That is a very expensive proposition, but not a new one. You can bet there will be more discussion about that. And David and Susan wrote to say that they'll miss us because they're moving to Minnesota. That is super kind that you would miss your local TV show. All the best. I hear it's cold there.